The swamp is for you pretty much a special subject. You've seen it, you've attacked it, you understand what it's all about. You've exposed the hidden wiring. You've done us all a real service there. What do you make of the fact that Biden is putting this guy, wants to put this guy right at the heart of his White House operation?
Just how typical it all is, Steve. In my book, Firebrand, I write a chapter called China is Not Our Friend, where I walk through politicians like Joe Lieberman and David Vitter, people from both sides of the aisle, who go and sell out to China. And, you know, there is already a problem where too many of our products are made in China. Joe Biden would have our policies made in China as well. Now, Biden's signature foreign policy goal would be to reinvest in NATO. He's all about NATO, and so to do that, he has to create threat construction around the concept of a resurgent Russia. This removes our focus from China, a focus that President Trump really brought into great clarity, and it allows these swamp monsters to get rich and to do their deals at the expense of the American worker. You know, the Chimerica dream was supposed to be that if we drew China closer, that it would make them more like us. It's only allowed them to steal our stuff, bribe our politicians, and then offshore the jobs that these liberals don't lock down.
Yeah, and just quick final thought, Matt. I think the way that they square the circle is that they give the corporate agenda, the corporate America, the agenda that they want, the globalist agenda, exactly as we've been discussing. And they buy off the left by giving them the kind of woke social justice stuff, which the corporates also love.
Yeah, the Uniparty can really consolidate their ideas around unchecked immigration. That benefits the kind of social justice warriors and the Democrats from a political power standpoint, and the corporations to drive down American wages. They want to have trade deals that allow them to hollow out the American worker. And then they want the forever wars. Remember, part of the corporatist agenda is to keep America engaged in these wars overseas. While we've been messing around in the Middle East, the Middle Kingdom has grown stronger and more ambitious, and that's why we need to confront China.
Welcome back. I don't know what's worse, the stupidity and authoritarianism of the lockdowns or the sickening hypocrisy of the Democrat lockdown leaders who break their own rules. Pelosi in the hair salon, Feinstein in the private airport without a mask, Lightfoot in the crowd and the hair salon. And then the big one, Gavin Newsom. No large gatherings, stay outdoors, social distancing, wear a mask between bites. Unless, of course, you make those rules, in which case you can break every single one of them, as he did in that notorious French Laundry dinner. Where's this going, Matt? Is there any way that people can fight back? I mean, I hear people talk about civil disobedience. What do you think?
And moved to Florida. We actually believe in freedom there. And the fact that Charlie Kirk knows so much about French laundry shows how much more cultured he is than I am. I thought Gavin Newsom was actually going to do the laundry when I first saw this news report. But I have a confession to make to you, Steve. I, too, have violated the Washington, D.C. lockdowns when I got a haircut. And so I've got no blame for Speaker Pelosi or anyone else that feels the need to do their hair, but it sort of felt like a drug deal. We had to meet in an undisclosed location, operate only in cash, and, not look at each other in the eyes too much during this haircut transaction. I'm sure the fact that I've admitted this now means that a special counsel will likely be appointed. There'll be a series of ethics investigations. But the difference between me and Pelosi and Newsom is that I'm not sorry. I think that the danger isn't in a maskless governor of California. The danger comes with these lockdowns that punish blue-collar people. They punish folks who don't have the ability to just work from home, and they're deeply unfair to our fellow Americans, and we should stand against them.
Exactly, because you are pro-haircut, you are pro-small business, you are pro-people getting on with their life.
Pro-haircut, I'm for it.
Pro-freedom, and then people can take responsibility.
He thought that Gavin Newsom was doing the French's laundry. That's why.
This week, House Democrats picked Nancy Pelosi to stand as their candidate for Speaker when the vote takes place in January. 2 years ago, Nancy Antoinette barely eked out a victory after 15 of her Democrat colleagues refused to vote for her. With the GOP making gains in the House, is there a chance she'll actually lose? Let's ask one of the 435 people who'll be voting, Congressman Matt Gaetz. What do you think? I seem to remember her saying that this would be her last time. I can't believe she's sort of still there. I mean, are they ever going to get rid of her?
Well, never bet against Nancy Pelosi. You have to, for a moment, look at the context of the fact that the leaders of the Democratic Party could be Biden, Schumer, and Pelosi. Not exactly young, vibrant, and diverse, if you ask me. But there's an interesting little moment that we all have to look forward to with Speaker Pelosi, and that is the recorded vote on the floor. You see, among these people who didn't vote for Nancy Pelosi before, between 5 and 7 of them are going to have to switch and vote for her this time, even though they didn't vote for her last time. That's like asking your members to politically walk the plank and reverse their position on the value and utility of your leadership. But one thing I know about Nancy Pelosi, she's got an iron grip on that Democratic caucus, so she'll find a way. It might mean a few members make their way to the Appropriations Committee, despite not having seniority, might mean a few people get on Ways and Means or get their foreign trips approved or get bigger staffs or different offices, but she is someone who certainly has demonstrated the ability to hold on to power at all costs.
Throughout the campaign, the mainstream media promised to defend truth and democracy and declared themselves unbiased, straight news reporters, so there's no way they'd fall all over themselves to suck up to Biden at his first news conference, right? What do you think?
What do you see as the biggest threat to your transition right now, given President Trump's unprecedented attempt to obstruct and delay a smooth transfer of power?
It doesn't appear that the president is going to come around anytime soon and admit defeat. So what are you going to do? What options do you have to try and ensure that you are ready to go on day one?
Oh, yes. Thank goodness we have all the kale and quinoa eating reporters of the Washington Beltway to preserve and protect our democracy. Look, Steve, this press corps gave Donald Trump a tongue lashing for 4 years, and now they're giving Joe Biden a cat bath. It is ludicrous that they don't have the willingness to ask the tough questions that Charlie laid out. And look, if there is going to be this intense K Street, corporate America involvement in the transition policies, we have to look at the effect that that will have on real people, real Americans. Instead, the press would rather talk about process. In this country, we deserve a media objective enough to report the facts and politicians bold enough to shape events. Instead, we get the perverse opposite, a bunch of wimp politicians and then folks in the media who think it's their goal not to report on things, but to try to shape the outcome.
All right, Matt, close this out. Not much time, but I know you can nail it.
You talked about structural corruption in Washington, D.C. I want to plug the op-ed I wrote in the Washington Examiner this last week. Republicans are wrong on remote voting. One way to drain the swamp in this place is to get members of Congress out of Washington back into their districts. And can you just imagine if the lobbyists and special interests had to fly to Topeka, Kansas or Northwest Arkansas to trade money for favors? It'd make it harder on lobbyists and better for America. This is Congressman Matt Gaetz. If you liked that video, make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on social media, and join us on our daily podcast, Hot Takes with Matt Gaetz, on your favorite podcast listening platform.